But I guess for people who want to know some more about dementia, what is it? It's actually an umbrella term for a bunch of different factors. So it's an umbrella term that kind of centers around memory loss and other thinking abilities severe enough to interfere with daily life. So the other diagnoses that fall under the umbrella of dementia are Alzheimer's, Lewy body dementia, vascular dementia, frontotemporal dementia, and others such as Parkinson's or Huntington's disease. It can kind of be a combination of different things that happen when someone gets old. It is something that is kind of considered not normal though. Like it's a add-on from another illness. And dementia is defined by multiple websites, but for credit's sake, I specifically pulled this from the Baltimore Sun's article, Our Hearts Beat in Unison, Maryland Family Learns to Cope with Dementia. And it defines it as, an umbrella term for cognitive decline. Alzheimer's disease is one of the most common forms and the leading cause of dementia, with more than 70% of dementia cases being attributed to Alzheimer's. It also went on to say in 2020, which isn't no, it's 2021. So last year, the WHO announced that dementia was one of the top 10 causes of death, with nearly 2 million deaths attributed to it worldwide in 2019 alone. So it's something that a lot of people are dealing with. So it makes sense, I think, that there are a lot more films coming out, kind of like trying to rationalize it and make it more of like a common understanding, since it seems like people are living longer and are more likely to be experiencing these issues. In an article, Medical News Today, titled Dementia Symptoms, Stages, and Types, it offers some fast facts. Specifically, there is an estimated 47.5 million dementia sufferers worldwide. One new case of dementia is diagnosed every 4 seconds, and dementia mostly affects older people, but is not a normal part of aging. It's usually caused by an underlying illness that exacerbates memory loss and stuff like that. What are some things that someone with dementia encounters? A person dealing with dementia may start to develop a variety of symptoms, mostly associated with memory loss. It's said that some symptoms may be noticed by the individual, but it's oftentimes that there are other symptoms that are only really noticed by others. This is also from the Medical News Today article that possible symptoms of dementia include recent memory loss, difficulty completing familiar tasks, problems communicating, so difficulty with language or forgetting words, as you were saying with your grandfather, Gabe, the numbers coming out as words, disorientation, getting lost on a previously familiar street, for example, problems with abstract thinking, for instance, dealing with money, misplacing things, forgetting the location of everyday items such as keys, wallets, or other things, for example, mood changes, sudden or unexplained changes in outlook or disposition, personality changes, perhaps becoming fearful, suspicious, or irritable, and loss of initiative, showing less interest in starting something or going somewhere. As the patient ages, late-stage dementia symptoms tend to get worse. But as dementia is impacting so many individuals and their families across the globe, it was 47.5 million. So that's a lot of people. There's been a push for more accurate film representation of the illness. I think with something that a lot of people are dealing with, it is, you kind of want to destigmatize it and make it, I've seen horror do good and bad versions of this where they make the old person scary because of some... exactly. Because of this change in behavior or change in who they are. And then you see kind of better representations like we had with Relic. But in an article from USA Today, it feels like a horror film, new dementia dramas, Falling, Supernova, Aim for Truthfulness Over Tears by Patrick Ryan. They interview a man named Viggo Mortensen and go over their experience with their mom, father, and other relatives experiencing dementia. Specifically, he kind of goes on to talk about how films that he had seen either dramatized or were inaccurate in their portrayal of dementia, and that he wanted to really like make something that would more accurately represent it. So in the article, he goes on to say, it's something I'm familiar with and had never seen accurately reflected in movies about dementia or Alzheimer's. And he goes on, he says, even in the best portrayals that involve somebody who's confused most of the time, my experience in that those are who are confused by and large are the observers, not the person with dementia, because that person is actually seeing, hearing, and feeling those things. They seem real to them, not confusing. Obviously, this is, his own experience. It's not universal. But in thinking of what you can do to help someone with dementia, Viggo goes on to offer some advice to join their point of view to some degree. Meet them. If someone who has dementia tells you they just had lunch with someone that has been dead for 30, 40 years, the worst thing you can do is say, they're not here anymore, because then they are upset and confused and that person dies again. What you do instead is say, what did you have for lunch? You kind of not make them feel like they're losing themselves, and instead just be like, okay, you think that happened. I know it didn't, but
what's the harm
do I need to disrupt your whole being right
Yeah.
now by reminding you that you're not fully present?
Mm-hmm.
So how does one manage dementia? The Alzheimer's Association offers some support for both prevention and managing dementia. They offer a helpline specifically for people who are diagnosed to make them feel not alone. So say they do not have someone actively taking care of them and they're feeling stressed about this. It offers a hotline, which is 800-272-3900. It also offers caretaking information for people with Alzheimer's or dementia and for their caregivers. There's support groups that exist, and you can locate that within the community, as well as a virtual library of resources. In another article from the Alzheimer's Association, it offers some lifestyle interventions to provide maximum memory benefit when combined, that they might offset or elevate the risk, offset the elevated risk for Alzheimer's if you are genetically likely to get it. Much like other things, it is very much oriented around having a healthy lifestyle, having a healthy diet, things that kind of go into maintaining your body and your mind on the day-to-day. It offers specifically 5 research study lifestyle changes that can kind of reduce the risk for Alzheimer's or dementia. So, adopting 4 or 5 healthy lifestyle factors reduce the risk of Alzheimer's dementia by 60% compared to those adopting none of the factors listed. So adherence to a healthy lifestyle might counteract genetic risk for Alzheimer's. Having a higher cognitive reserve built through formal education, cognitive simulation, may benefit the aging brain by reducing risk of dementia among people exposed to high levels of air pollution. Confirmation that early adult and midlife smoking may be associated with cognitive impairment at midlife as early as one's 40s, and alcohol disorders significantly increase the risk for dementia, specifically in older women, which is interesting. It seems like there are things that you can do, essentially, if you do have Alzheimer's or dementia as something that runs in your family, to kind of preventatively take care of it and make sure that it doesn't get worse. Obviously, there's science behind the fact that if you don't use certain areas of your brain for long enough, those areas will decrease in functionality. So I think there are even games, like phone games and stuff like that, that are advertised to help increase your brain vitality. And doing stuff like that and kind of keeping your brain active, seeing people that you love, not, as you were saying, Gabe, not putting people in a place where they don't know anybody or would otherwise not have their memories activate, is actually one of the things it says to do. To be around the people that you're familiar with is helpful. And I thought it was interesting and kind of scary that it listed air pollution as something that exacerbates the chances of Alzheimer's. That's in our planet that is dying. That's just a scary factor. And was something I didn't know. So that's actually kind of scary, and I guess is good to know. That would also kind of indicate that there could be a correlation between, you know, poverty and urban versus rural living. So that's kind of gross too, that capitalism kind of influences who are more predisposed to dementia and Alzheimer's, which I guess is not shocking, but just kind of gross. Because it not only impacts like your ability to prevent it, but also your ability to like take care of somebody who is dealing with that more effectively. But I think in terms of like, if you think someone that you love is exhibiting symptoms of dementia, it is good to know that there could be overarching illnesses that could be causing it, and that you have other things that you can be looking for to kind of slow down the process. And I think if you have the capacity to stay with the person that you love, and make that journey for them easier, that is something that you should do, even if it is hard. And I think it's something that can be really scary and honestly, in its own right, traumatic to see someone that you love so much and who has had such a strong impact on your life and you're used to kind of being there for you, need you. But I think there's a cyclical return of the favor of being raised by someone like that by taking care of them. Like as the daughter said, they changed your diapers. It is now your turn to change theirs. And I think that really rings true, that that's something that a lot of more people should be considering in terms of like, what are they going to do to take care of the people who took care of them their whole lives? Because I think capitalism makes that really challenging. So I don't know exactly what the solution is. The world is gross and we actively just try to cope with it and do the best that we can. But, yeah, I think it all ties back to capitalism or racism or whatever it ends up being, is that it all ends up tying back somehow. In terms of like how to manage and treat and also take care of people who are dealing with these kinds of things. Economic status plays a part.
How people, you know, interact with dementia, and that there's not a lot of debate about the validity, you know, like often with mental illness, people face that like criticism or misunderstanding of like, oh, you're just making it up or you're just doing this, and not understanding like what that is. And I think with dementia that doesn't really, I mean, and I could be completely wrong, but I feel like people are like, oh, you know, my grandparent or my parent has dementia, and that's just like how it is. I think the biggest thing with any mental illness and what we're finding in this series is to inform yourself. Like if you want to be an ally, if you want to be a caregiver, is to, you know, read up on, educate yourself on what is happening, and to see it from their point of view, to meet them where they're at, and not, you know, try to force upon them a reality that is yours, right? And instead, like you said, with, you know, not kind of like dismantling their whole idea, like if they thought they had lunch with, you know, someone who isn't there, not completely pulling the rug from under them and, you know, giving them new trauma again, instead just being like, okay, like this is what your reality is right now. This is how we're going to move forward with it. You know, I mean, someone dear to me struggled with, you know, drug addiction, and in my youth, I studied up a lot on drug addiction. I read a lot of books, like I read like Go Ask Alice and other books like that, or watched documentaries and read up articles online about what was happening to the brain so that I could properly understand and empathize with what that person was going through. And I think that has greatly impacted the way that I interact with that person and the way that I, you know, see that person. Was to one, because drug addiction is also a mental illness, right? As people, like we talked about that last time, right? Alcoholism is also a mental illness, like that. So understanding and really putting on your media analysis classes, watching some films that might help you understand, or just, you know, reading, right? Or asking Like, what are you doing right now? What are you going through? Talk to someone who might have similar experiences, another caregiver that maybe you feel is doing a good job. And learn about what that person's going through. I think that's the biggest thing that you can do as a loved one of someone with any mental illness, literally any of them, is to just try to understand it and just to see what they see and be patient with that information and knowledge, and then be able to offer like your help in that way. And just being patient, understanding that people are people, like they're still the person you love, they're just having to deal with this thing and you have to help. Like you have to deal with it too. And I think we can help.
Empathy goes a long way. I think the world ultimately at the end of the day needs more empathy than a lot of people currently have within them. And I think it's something that needs to be a thing. And when being an ally and being someone, a loved one or a caretaker for anybody, I think empathy is like the biggest pathway to doing that right. That like, you may not understand everything, but at least you're trying to understand. At least you're trying to like hear them and see them and have them feel validated in what they're experiencing. Because if you don't have that, I mean, then I don't think there's much help that can happen. Empathy is really, I think, the first step. And kind of like taking your own personal feelings out of it. Like just being like, I need to be there for this person and I need to hear them. And whatever I'm feeling or thinking is not productive to that situation right now. And as you said, Gabe, doing research and trying to learn as much as possible, because honestly, that is the only way that you will get closer to any bridge of understanding. And
help. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is the big takeaway for this whole series, in being an ally or caregiver, is just, learn about it, talk to people, and, meet them where they're at, understand that there's not one answer, there's not one reality even, there are things that sometimes you're just going to have to try. It's going to be a lot of hit and miss and, patience and working through it, and then you get where it is. And it's not the end of the world. Like, for dementia, unfortunately, often is at the end of their lives, and like you said, is the cause of, a fair amount of deaths, or is, towards the end of someone's death. But there are those moments where they are there, and they know you, and they know themselves, and it's worth it to make the most of those moments for them. And for all the other, instances that we covered, understanding that, you can live, you can keep going, and you can keep doing it, and you're just adapting and changing your life like you would with anything. That is, adjusted in your life. So, I hope you all enjoyed this series. Remember to like and subscribe and share if you have your own thoughts or experiences regarding dementia or any of the mental illnesses, or ones that maybe we didn't cover. Like, we didn't cover PTSD, which was one of our intentions at the beginning of this, and will probably be a future episode. Let us know. We'd love to hear about it from you. If you like this movie, definitely let us know. If there's other dementia films out there that you suggest, we would love to watch them. And they don't even have to be horror, just because we always want to learn more. For the month of June, we will be on break, so there will be no new episodes, but there will be other things. We'll be sharing out other episodes. If you're missing the Ghouls, you can revisit some of our favorites. It is Pride Month, so you can visit our whole queer horror series. You can listen to our queer representation episode, all kinds of things. If you want to do that, we also just have other, things that are going on. So be sure to keep up with us, hang out with us on Twitch, talk to us on the internet. We're going to be here, and we'll be back in full swing in July, ready to go and get back into it. But it's just our yearly break of a month. So if you miss us, let us know. We also appreciate that.
And it's 150 plus episodes that you can go through, so there's lots of content. If you haven't been here the whole time, you got things to occupy you.
There's at least 100 good ones. I can't speak for all 150, but there's at least 100 good ones. I can say that much. Yeah, awesome. Well, don't get married.
They'll eat your kids.
Okay, bye.
Bye.